Hey, everybody, and welcome you again to another episode of The Other Side of the Story, where we're bringing stories of people's lives that are inspiring to you, going to motivate you, and then going to challenge you just to see where people are at, have already accomplished great things in their life, and greater things are coming. And today we have the right woman who's going to share some things in her journey. I really believe it is going to help you. I've been excited about interviewing Dr. Melanie Shorter Jones. She is a physician here in Middle Georgia area. But before I get to the questions, I want to kind of properly introduce her on her education level and where she has come from. She's from Albany, Georgia. She graduated summa cum laude, which is awesome, a graduate of Albany State, where she got her bachelor's degree in biology. She's a graduate of the University of Tennessee, which we don't understand that, but that's all right. College of Medicine, medical doctor's degrees, where she got that at. And here's a great honor. She completed her residency at Tallahassee Regional Medical Center, where she served as the chief resident in just her third year of residency, which has been a great honor. And she's been practicing, I said, family medicine for over 20 years. And I know her personally because she has been our family doctor for at least 15 years. And we're just so glad to have you, Dr. Melanie Shorter Jones.
I really appreciate the offer, and I'm excited to be here. Glad to talk to you today.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yes, it is. Because again, I got so many things in me because I'm just passionate about health and wellness and things like that. But you grew up in Albany, right?
I did. The Good Life City.
Good Life City.
Good Life City.
So I noticed about your story is that when you were, even before you were born, of course, that your grandfather was a doctor, but he was a doctor back in like the 1940s, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
He actually went to Tuskegee
Okay.
Institute way back.
Mhm.
So he passed away when my mom was only 3. So,
Okay.
of course, I never knew him.
Mhm.
But when I hear stories and I hear things from when my grandmother was alive, it was really interesting because I kept thinking, well, how could he have even been a doctor at that time in
Mhm.
America? But in the South, he was. And he went to medical school in Chicago, came back down to Fort Gaines, Georgia, and practiced medicine until he passed away. So I feel like there's some kind of a spirit that runs through me from him.
Yeah, that is amazing because you didn't know him,
Nope.
but yet in your lineage, he was a physician, and he was a physician, like you said, in a time in America where it was really difficult. Segregation, racism, for him to
Absolutely.
do that. So no doubt he had to overcome a lot to become a physician,
Absolutely.
which no doubt is in you somehow.
I think it is.
I do
think it
too.
is. And I kind of took it and ran with
Yeah.
it, but took a lot of detours before I
Mhm.
got to that point.
Yeah. So tell us about, like, you're in Albany, and now you're a youth and you're growing and getting in high school. Was there anything in you that began to kind of click, going, you know what, I'm interested in medicine. I want to be a doctor, because a lot of kids
Right.
have a dream. You ask kids, what do you want to do as you grow up? Astronaut,
Mhm.
doctor, and all that,
Yeah.
lawyer. But what started happening in you, you think?
I think it was about 7th or 8th grade, and I really found that my passion was math. Solve math problems. I love geometry. I love
Mm.
trigonometry. It sounds really nerdy, I know, but I was.
Help me.
I mean,
I'm terrible at math. Go ahead.
I love math and I love
Mhm.
science. And as you get into high school, they start trying to match you with your passions and putting a career in mind. So I took a test and they said, oh, you'd be great at being an engineer, an architect, a math teacher, science teacher. And I thought, both of my parents were educators. My
Mhm.
mom, elementary school principal, my dad taught school and even taught on the college level. And so they both said, I don't know if you want to go into education, maybe find something else to
Yeah.
do, without saying don't do it, but kind of
Mhm.
pushing me towards something else. So I said, well, not going to do the math or science teacher. Maybe I'll be an engineer. But, at 15, 16 years old, what is an engineer? I don't even know what they do. But I'm thinking,
Yeah.
that sounds good. It sounds
Mhm.
like they make a lot of money. So
Right.
I'm going to do that. So my parents sent me to a summer program at Georgia Tech. And I remember being in there and I thought, this has got to be the most boring thing I've ever seen. Like, it just didn't ignite anything
Okay.
in me. And there were no women, there were very few women and no women of color, of
Mhm.
course. So I didn't feel connected in any kind of way. So came back, I'm in 12th grade by this point. I had a drafting teacher, Mr. Stanley, I'll never forget. He thought, you're such a talented person at drawing and designing houses and buildings, and you could be an architect. So again, I thought that's good, but it just didn't strike anything in me
Mhm.
again. So went to the dentistry route. Went to go volunteer with my parents' dentist, and first day we were there, he's pulling out this guy's teeth, and I remember him having, I mean, it looked like a wrench or a I don't know, some sort of instrument, pliers, and he's pulling, and I'm thinking, how disgusting, how gross
Yeah.
is this? And I'm getting all lightheaded and dizzy and weak. I said, yeah, this is not going to work either. And the whole irony of it is medicine's probably way more gross
Mm-hmm.
than dentistry, but I did not want to do it.
Yeah.
I got into college and started taking biology, all your chemistry classes and physics, and that was it. I
Mm-hmm.
was in love. So I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I'll figure out this health, science, medicine route. Started volunteering at the hospital, and I felt it. That was it. This is where I need to be.
Yeah.
So, pursuing that, thing about medical school, you kind of have to know early on because you have to take the MCAT, which you really have to do well on to even get
Mm-hmm.
into medical school. And clearly you've got to have, good grades
Right.
because if you don't, you're in competition with people worldwide.
Okay.
And American medical schools are the toughest to get into. So if you're in competition with people from Harvard and Stanford, and I was going to a small HBCU in South Georgia, so
Right.
I really had to make my resume look tremendous to be in competition.
Well, that's awesome.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You got to be persistent.
Mm-hmm.
So applied to medical schools. I mean, I applied everywhere that bordered the state of Georgia. I mean, University of Florida and Alabama and North Carolina and Duke and everywhere. And the last school I added to round out my 10 schools was UT in Memphis. And the way the applications worked back then, you paid a certain amount for the amount of schools you would apply to.
Mm-hmm.
So in increments of 5, and I thought, I need to add one more because I had 9. And I looked on the map. I said, there's University of Tennessee. It's in Memphis.
Yeah.
I can go there. I added it and went to my interviews. I got a call. This is before cell phones, got a call over Christmas break of my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom answered. I wasn't home. And it was Tennessee calling, and they told me I had been accepted. So I get home, and my mom's like, oh, guess what? The University of Tennessee called, and they said they have a spot for you in the class of 2000. And I said, well, what did you tell them? She goes, what do you mean? What did I tell them? You're coming. You're going to be there. So, well, what about the other schools? She's like, no. First school that says yes is the school that you're going to say yes to. We are going.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, we? She's like, yeah, we're going.
Yeah.
We're all going. So that was the end of that. I'm headed to Tennessee, and 4 years of a lot of work.
So that was the medical school, 4 years.
4 years.
Let me ask you a question, because I just want to not run through something you just said that really hit me. Your parents were in education, which really, no doubt, influenced you, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So you're being influenced in education because your parents were in education.
Right.
So talk about for a second about the value of your parents trying to lead you the right way, but yet not trying to force something on you. No doubt you discovered, unlocked your passion.
I think they both knew that wasn't what I really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And no doubt about it, I think the educators are, I think they should be paid 5 times what they are being paid, because they are the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
Educators are teaching the future doctors, the lawyers, the engineers. They're teaching everyone. And without talented educators, where would we be?
Right.
But I think they knew from even me being a kid and just being curious about a lot of things and putting things together and taking them apart and wanting to know how things work. I feel like they must have known, and they kept saying, well, are you sure? Is this what you want to do? But we think you ought to go where you want to go. Do what you want to do.
Okay.
Find what's the passion for you.
Well, because I think the reason I brought that up is I think you'll probably agree, is that I think a lot of people do things like you talking about, you're going to go into the dentistry, you're going to go to architect, engineer, but yet it was boring to you. Don't you feel like sometimes people get into areas not knowing who they are and what they want to do, and then they're unhappy, but yet they're doing it?
They're doing it. I think that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You look at what the pay is.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what the fame of it, how it looks on paper, what people think about it. But one thing about medicine, yes, in most situations it pays well, but you sacrifice a lot. So are you getting paid more than what you sacrifice? I don't know.
Yeah.
You still have to have a passion for it, because what you have to go through, if you don't love it and you don't feel it deep in your soul, you will give it up.
So you're not going to stay with it.
You won't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's way too much. You're giving way too much of yourself to persist and keep going in that area, to not have some kind of a love for it.
Right.
You just can't.
Yeah. I think it helps people even right now to reiterate, go for your passion. Don't do something and don't get stuck in something you hate doing
Right.
because life's too short for that. So I think
Way
that's
too
a
short.
great point you're teaching. So you're in medical school. It's a 4-year process at this
Mm-hmm.
point. So
Mm-hmm.
talk about some challenges. Talk about some things you had to endure, overcome type thing.
So I've been kind of I don't say scary kind of kid, but I wasn't a kid that was going to be watching Jason and Freddy and all those kind of horror movies.
Yeah,
But introduce Gross Anatomy, and that's all the Freddy and Jason that you want to see. When you have the cadavers and you have to
Mm-hmm.
dissect them, and those are cadavers that you keep for 3-4 months, and so you're opening them up head to toe. Every vein, vessel, blood. I mean everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm never gonna make it through this class.
So you're going to help everybody because help me too. A cadaver is actually
A
a
person
human being.
that donated
Oh
their
my God,
bodies to
y'all.
science.
Okay, so
Yes.
so you actually have a body
Yep, a
that
body.
you work on. How is that?
That was a challenge because, like I
Okay.
say, I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch any creepy movies. I don't want to go in a scary house. And I'm thinking, how am I going to look at this man? And then I got to go home to my apartment. I'm going to be thinking about this cadaver.
Yeah.
But, it became very scientific. And it's
Okay.
weird how I could compartmentalize.
Okay.
This is medicine. This is work. This is helping people. But I'm not about to watch Silence of the Lambs because I don't want to see anything gross.
Right.
It was just weird how I got through it. And I mean, we had that same cadaver from August until December, the end of the semester. So you can imagine by the end of the semester what it looked like because we dissected the heart, we dissected the brain, we did all of the organs, and every day you'd have to kind of cover it in formaldehyde to keep it from rotting basically.
Yeah.
And we'd have to wrap him up, put him back into the freezer. Yeah.
I'm glad I just never knew that about doctors.
Really?
I bet
Yeah.
I bet people listening, watching never
Oh
knew
yeah.
that. Just
Oh
to
yeah.
learn the anatomy is what you did.
Just to learn anatomy. And we even had to go to the morgue, a couple of times when the city coroner would get bodies in. So one part of the semester, we all had pagers, and when they would get a body, they would have 4 or 5 med students come over and watch them do the autopsy. So again, I'm thinking, God, can I get through the end of the semester and not get called? Maybe I'll get called next semester.
Yeah.
I need some time to kind of process this. Like a week before Christmas break, beeper goes off, and they're like, "Oh yeah, come to the city morgue." Poor woman had tried to kill herself, and she poured gasoline on her body and set herself on fire, and that's the body we had to do, the autopsy on. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. But again, compartmentalizing and to say, you know what, this is in the name of science. This is something I've got to learn, and I could rationalize to myself how I needed to learn this and not be afraid.
That's good because now I want you to kind of elaborate on teaching us and helping somebody trying to overcome a fear.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily in the same category, but you
Yeah.
overcame some fears.
Yeah.
What made you how you feel like what happened to overcome that fear? I know you compartmentalized,
Yeah.
but just how do we overcome fears?
I think we just have to know. I mean, we basically have to know that. And I guess I can introduce religion into this.
Yeah.
I had to rely on God more than I ever did. As a kid, you pray, you go to church because my parents we went to church.
Okay.
And I understood it, but I didn't understand it in the way as an adult, out of my parents' home, out of Albany, away, 9 hours away.
Yeah.
Having to deal with these things day to day that they could help me with.
Right.
They weren't doctors. They didn't understand the journey that I was taking. So my way to overcome fear, I mean, I really would have to pray.
Yeah.
And I would just have to say, God, I just need you just to help me get through this.
Yeah.
And I still do that, but I really, really had to do that because at 21, I went to medical school. I was 21. So there were people in my class who were 30 and 40 and 50 just starting. I'm literally fresh out of fraternity, sorority parties and football games and being carefree to lockdown. And now I got to make, these adult decisions and I got to buckle down. And academically, I would say things, I don't want to say they just came easy, but I didn't struggle to do well. But I had to struggle in medical school because the amount of information that was there compared to what, a semester in college biochemistry was 2 weeks in medical school. You have notes stacked up this high that was, for the semester. So the fear of failure, the fear of just not being able to accomplish what I set out to accomplish, was there.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I would put prayers down and write them putting them under my pillow,
Yeah.
sleep on them,
Yeah.
anything I could do.
That's good.
My grandma always would call and she's like, I got a book, I'm gonna put it in the mail.
Yeah.
You know, it was before I got a cell phone, you couldn't text
Right.
anything. She put these little books in the mail. She's like, read this every day. And I had scriptures memorized that I would say, and I mean that's what got me through. Now, I don't know about what other people do.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
No, I think it's important. I think people need to hear that because, again, whatever fear they're facing, you know, being anxious about something, but yet your passion was, you know, you were driven because you feel like this is really what I got to do. So I got to learn, of course, about the body, but you had to go through some,
right.
some tough things. It's so powerful because having to go in, cut open a body, you know, again, people that are listening to this, I'm telling you, should have a new respect for their doctor because all the education, all the things you went to learn. That's powerful. Draw on to overcome your fear, you know, power of God, we believe, you know, that gives you encouragement and strength to keep going.
Absolutely. I would not and could not have done it. I know.
Yeah.
When I think back, sound like old people, when I think back over my life, you know, I don't know, I wouldn't have been able to do anything because the power is real. It's real.
So the sacrifice, talk about sacrifice for a second. You talk about fears, the sacrifice of being a physician. The education, all that, just kind of hit on that.
The 4 years in medical school, I don't know if I knew what was going on in the world. I believe Bill Clinton was the president, I think, 96 to 2000. I believe he was the president. I remember glimpses of things, but my life was the lab, the hospital, classroom, apartment, study hall, study hall, study hall. I don't really remember. I probably can count on two hands how many fun places, you know, you got a week off for break or whatever, Christmas time. But during the school year, there was no time for that. It was work, it was study. And I laugh now as my old med school roommate, she's a pediatrician in Dallas. And we laugh because we had this apartment and we had highlighters because, of course, we weren't using computers. We were using books, you know, and colored pens.
That's a whole nother level.
Yeah. We had a computer, but it wasn't like our computers now. So we had highlighter marks all over the couch, and we'd fall asleep, and the highlighter would end up on the couch, on the floor. But we think about how much we didn't do in that youth, in that young part of our lives, from 21 to 25. I didn't do a lot of things. It was study. So I saw friends of mine getting houses and getting married and having kids, and I'm like, here I am, still studying. I don't even have a real job, I don't have a check. I don't get any money. My daddy's sending me, money in the mail. So sacrifice of time and being patient.
Did you ever feel like quitting? I mean, did you feel like going, this is not worth it?
100 times.
What kept you going? Help us on that.
Being stubborn. Like, you cannot let this lick you. You can't let this beat you. You're stronger than this. You're tougher than this. People have done this before. You can do it. Why are you doing it? And I would, build myself up, and then in the 3 more days, I'm like, okay, here I am again. But, you keep telling yourself, and eventually 3 days turns into a month, and a month turns into a year. And when you look, you think, oh my gosh, years gone by. Can't turn around now.
Yeah.
2 years have gone by. You get to graduation, and you think, I cannot believe this. This is here. But the time, the sacrifice with your family. When COVID was going on, the world was at home.
Yeah.
And we weren't.
Yeah.
We didn't close one day.
Wow.
Not one day. That was March the 13th, 2020. The day world shut down.
Yeah.
We were here March 16th, and we did not stop. There was not a day that we shut down. So when everybody was learning how to cook and getting their exercise on and
spending time with their family,
I was here. Did not stop. And my whole family, of course, was at home because my kids were not in school.
Right.
My husband was at the base. The base had them working from home. And there was a certain part of me that was jealous that I didn't get to spend time with them. And they were home all day. And when I would come home, my husband and my kids would say, oh, we did this today, and Daddy bought us this, and we watched this. And I'm like, I missed it, So you miss out on some things. But you feel like you hopefully that you're making a difference in the world. And I think everybody's job in some kind of way puts them in a situation where they have to make some sacrifices. And I've made sacrifices with money. I mean, medical education is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Easily. You end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans a lot of times when you're finished.
Wow.
you spend 10 years paying it back. So you're already 40. You're still paying back student loans.
I'm just amazed at your story. I'm amazed at what you're teaching us about not quitting. People need to hear that again. I'm just going to reiterate that, is that when you feel like quitting, you got to develop a resistance to quitting, being stubborn.
You
I'm
do.
not going to let this get me down. So if you're listening, watching this right now, don't let whatever you feel like cause you to quit, don't let it get you down. But then the sacrifice is just so powerful, because a lot of people, we look at sacrifice as wasted, but in your situation, of course, everybody's not wasted.
Right.
You're making a difference. And I think everybody's put on this earth to make a difference.
I hope so. And that's what I always kind of say. Have I done something to help somebody? And there's nothing more gratifying to hear somebody just say, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. We don't expect tips like the barber or the hair salon or the nail shop. But when somebody just says, I appreciate it. That's all you want to hear.
I think, again, because I hate to keep stopping, but this is such a hit, and I got to tell this, is I think people need to tell their doctor thank you. They need to appreciate, again, because during COVID, it was because y'all were heroes. This medical field was heroes going. I didn't really realize that you never shut down. So again, so if you're watching, listening, tell your doctor thank you. Matter of fact, I think it's a great idea. Isn't it amazing how we'll give the barista at Starbucks a tip for coffee? You ought to give doctors tips. Go ahead. But anyway, that's what I believe.
And don't get me wrong. We don't want that. That's definitely not why we got in the business. But it is good to just hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lady that over Christmas, and I don't even remember what I did, but she remembered, and she came up here and she works at Kroger, and she sent a Kroger gift card. And I thought to myself, now that's a gift.
Yeah.
Groceries. I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
And just a thought, right?
I said, just a thought. And she said, you really helped me out, and I really appreciate it. You don't even understand how much what you did. And I really don't even remember. I don't remember, but she said it meant the world to me. It could have been $5. I don't even know what it was. It was the thought that she took the time out to go there and buy something, bring it up here and say thank you. And she wrote a nice letter. I still have it at my home. And those kinds of things mean a lot. They really do.
So today, if you're watching and listening, tell somebody thank you, give them a gift card. It would be powerful. They'll really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So you spent the 4 years. This time, I believe you're in Tennessee.
Right, 4 years in Tennessee.
And so you did your residency in Florida, Tallahassee.
Right.
All right. So the challenges. So was there challenges of racism? Was there challenges you felt it, saw it, experienced it? Talk about that.
Yeah. Clearly, there's not a lot of, first of all, at that time, and we're talking 20 years ago, I'm sure the ratio of male to female was more males in medicine than females, but we are really climbing in numbers now. So it's probably pretty close to even at this point, pretty close. But minorities, still there's a lower number, particularly African-American and people of Hispanic descent. There's still a very low number, and women, of course. So at my residency program, I was the only Black woman until my third year, and then another young lady came in. But there are times when you go in a room and you go in there to help a patient, and they'll say, well, when's the doctor coming in? And you say, well, I'm the doctor, and they'll look, and, they kind of feel bad for me. And some might feel bad for me, and they'll say, oh, okay. But the assumption is, and then just being realistic, if I was a white male, you would not assume that. And there were times I was chief resident, and I had residents under me who would come in the room with me, and they would direct their questions to the man. And sometimes I wouldn't even say anything. I just, let it happen until, it was time. Even here, and I had been a doctor 10, 15 years, it were subtle things. I'd have pharmaceutical reps come in, and they wouldn't address me as doctor. They wanted to call me by my first name. And I felt a certain type of way, because you wouldn't do that to a male doctor.
Right.
You wouldn't. You would do it to another woman, any woman of any race, but you wouldn't do it to a man. And I felt odd about it. And I didn't want to harp on it, like, call me doctor. I didn't. That wasn't the issue. The issue was, I just want the same level of respect that you would give to a male doctor.
That's right.
So I've been in the hospital plenty of times. I had another doctor came to me, and he said, there's a spill down there at the end of the hallway, and I need you to get it. And I said, okay. I didn't even say anything else. Because why argue sometimes when I know who I am? I don't have to prove that to anyone else. But it takes a lot of restraint. And then my husband tells me all the time, you're better than me. If I was in your shoes and I was a doctor, I would blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you know what? I think that's why God puts people in certain places.
Right.
Because that's just not who I am.
Right.
I'm not the person that's going to yell and scream and curse at somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to let stupidity, frankly, just let it be.
It's ignorance,
Mhm.
stupidity. But I just want, again, because this is one of my passions about, because I hate racism and I hate this, what happens in the sense of people's attitudes. But
Yeah.
here's what I will say, honestly, is me being predominantly Caucasian, I have American Indian in me,
Right, right.
is that I don't, when you're talking and those type things happen to your life, honestly, I don't think a lot of Caucasian people can even relate and understand that. I don't think they can understand it.
Right.
Because I want to ask you, how'd you feel? You know, was there like, you're a black female doctor, chief resident. People don't see you because based on skin color or you're a
Right,
female.
right.
So tell us about that for a minute. Just dig in for a second because it's so important. I think we need to hear of what you overcame and what it took a little more, maybe.
Mm-hmm. You feel a sense of inadequacy.
Okay.
And you feel like, oh, if I could just crawl out of my skin for a moment, if I could just be this way for a moment. But the older I got, the more I realized that how I am is how I'm supposed to be.
That's right.
And who I am is who I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be. And the world does not exist in balance if you don't have all kinds of people. I really felt alone. You feel lonely.
Mhm.
I remember being in one rotation in my internship, and it was a surgery rotation. Surgery field is probably 98% male.
Yeah.
Again, I was the only woman of color, only person of color. You saw the picture.
At least first, right?
First.
Yeah.
Nobody was there, and so of course they're hanging out in the lounge, and you know what they're talking about? Women. What they're talking about? Sports. What they're talking about?
Mhm.
Fishing and hunting. So what do? You sit there, or you leave. So now you're not a part of the culture because you don't have anything to contribute.
Right.
So either you can merge and try to fit in, but why would I try to fit in? Clearly, I'm a black woman. I'm not interested in deer hunting.
Right.
I'm just not.
Right.
That's okay. I don't have to be just to be, accepted.
Mhm.
So you spend a lot of time alone. You spend a lot of time contemplating whether or not is this the place for you. But I guess all in all, again, you still just have to know that God's going to protect you in that some kind of way you're going to come through that. But the racism side, it's so many things. I mean, I have on the phone, I've been called the N-word before. I mean, here, I've, dealt with people. I mean, I literally had a man who told me he refused to call me doctor. He said, I just don't think I should because I just don't think I should. He didn't even have a good reason. He just said, I just don't think I should. And I said, well, we probably don't need to be in this relationship because you don't value me clearly as a person, and it's probably just not going to work out. Yeah. It didn't even come anymore. I wasn't rude to him, but I just didn't think it was going to be a situation that we could work through.
Right.
It's, I think women of color and women in general, we deal with a lot of even some sexism sorts of things that other doctors may say, or they treat you like their secretary as opposed to their colleague.
Like you're inferior.
Yeah, like you're inferior. Or they talk over you. You say something, then they say, well, this is what we're going to do, or this is how it's going to be. And so, well, I just said that, but okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all I can say is I think I have a lot of patience. And I feel like it's my superpower.
Okay.
For a lot of patience.
Yeah.
I can tolerate a lot, but then what I don't want to do is internalize things so much to the point that it creates a problem.
Yeah, that's good.
Me.
Right.
So I have learned how to channel it and say it in a calm manner, and how to express it and say, that what you said doesn't make me feel good, and perhaps we don't need to continue. And that's how you get out of it. If you just want to leave the situation and move on, but there are a lot of things.
Yeah, you're teaching us. I'm telling you, this is powerful right now. It really is. Because what I'm learning from you is you got to know who you are. Mm-hmm. You got to know you're made in God's image, no matter what. Epidermis.
Right.
Everybody's value. That's what you're teaching us. And then another thing I'm hearing you say that is a great lesson is, everything is not worthy of a battle.
It's not. You'll be battling forever.
Yeah.
You will be battling.
Trying to prove yourself.
Trying to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just let the word speak. You just let your deeds, let your actions speak. You don't always have to say it. It's like rich people don't go around saying, "Hey, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich." You know they're rich. They can look like a bum, but you know Steve Jobs is rich.
Yeah.
You know Jeff Bezos is rich.
Right.
So I don't have to go around saying, "Hey, y'all, I know all of it."
I'm a doctor.
I don't do that.
Right.
I don't do that. I'm Melanie. When I leave here, I am just mom. I'm wife. I'm Melanie. I'm mom in my sorority. That's just not what I do. Because I just feel like there's no need. I don't need validation from man per se. However, you do want to be respected.
Right. That's a great point. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are in life, it is important to respect people.
Yes.
Regardless whether you agree with them.
Right. And you can agree to disagree.
That's right.
I laugh because I have a lot of patients who say they love Trump. I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
We get along.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk about politics to me. I'm not going to talk about it to you. We're going to talk about medicine. And
such divisiveness.
Yeah. I say, it doesn't matter to me. If you can take what I say medically, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who's your partner. I don't care who's your whatever. I don't care. Because I see all of that. I see everything. Everybody, everything, every belief, every faith, every non-faith, whatever. I see it all. So you have to find a common ground to connect with the person.
Right.
And I think, again, I always laugh about my superpowers. I say, I can strike up a conversation with anybody. I don't care if they're from Montana and they've never seen a black person before.
Right.
I'm still going to figure out something that we have in common to be able to converse with them.
That's good. I mean, you all need to learn that from you. We need to learn how to be able to talk to people no matter who they are or where they're from.
That's and whatever good. You disagree with, and I always tell my kids this, you have to love the person, you have to respect the person, even if you don't love or respect what they do or what they believe. I said, I'm a Christian. I'm not a Jewish person, but I'm not going to ever disrespect anybody for their faith.
Right.
I might not agree with who they believe in, but that has nothing to do with us having a conversation or us hanging out or us going. I mean, it doesn't.
That's good.
It's totally separate.
Yeah.
You can disagree with what they do, but you don't have to not love the person.
Right. That's good. You're teaching like Jesus did.
I mean, you really
that's how Jesus taught, right? That's how he walked.
You can't get along in the world. Not in America. You can't.
No, that's good. And then you being a black female doctor and all the things you just shared. I just thank you for sharing that. That's some powerful things. I've known you for 15 years and never heard really your story, some of that stuff. And I want to say thank you for enduring and thank you for hanging in there and going through all that you have gone through. Because you've been a great family doctor to us. I know
appreciate
that. I thank God for that.
Thank you for the thank you.
Yes. So you're in the medical field. Let's kind of look at wrapping this up in a second. But I want to talk to you about now the passion that you have for health and wellness that you see 20 years and you've seen it all, 20 years of people. What can you teach us about trying to make changes, whether it's big changes, small changes in our nutrition, in our health, and our awareness, things that you see neglected? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Help us with that.
One thing I will say is that good health starts early. It's kind of like a marathon and not a sprint.
Okay.
So, I have patients that'll come in at, 65 and they say, I'm ready to get healthy. And I'm like, yeah, we can start here, but don't think we're going to reverse, 65 years of poor living. So I really try to encourage people in their 20s and 30s. You've got to start taking that seriously now.
That's so good.
And they don't get it because they don't see being 50 and 60. They think they're going to be 25 and 30 forever. I'm like, you won't. You'll look up one day, you'll be 45 and you won't know, what happened.
Yeah.
So trying to really appeal to the younger people. Also in the South, we deal with our food groups, sugar, salt, and fat. That's the food groups in the South.
Yeah.
If it's not salty, sugary, or fatty,
or fried,
we don't like it.
Yeah.
So trying to get people to open up to trying new things. That is so difficult. When you talk to somebody and they say, well, I've got these 10 problems. First thing I ask them, what's your diet like? Oh, it's pretty good. And say, well, what do you have for breakfast? Oh, I had hash browns and 2 pancakes and frappe. And you're like, oh, okay, well, what was lunch? Oh, 3 hot dogs and, you know, French fries. And you hear it and you're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so is that how you eat every day? Yeah. I said, do you ever eat a vegetable or a fruit? Well, I had an apple about, you know, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're
2 years
like,
ago, I had an
yeah.
apple.
They're like, okay, so
Yeah.
that's your problem. So getting people to understand that good health starts with a good diet, good sleep, and good exercise.
Okay.
I don't care all the medicine, all the vitamins, all the surgeries. If you don't eat good, sleep good, and exercise, hang it up.
That's good.
That's it.
Now,
That's
please
it.
write that down.
Good food,
Yeah.
good sleep, and
And
exercise. You got to do those
You
things.
feel like that will help people begin to make changes in their health if you just stay with that.
They've
Okay.
got to, and nobody's gonna be perfect.
No.
I'm not perfect. I had horrible dinner last
Right.
night, but we had stuff with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the norm. That's
Right.
kind of like the fail,
Mm-hmm.
you know, safe that I have to go to if I don't have any other option.
Right.
But on a regular basis, if you don't eat fruits, if you don't eat vegetables, and there's nothing left but meat and starches.
Yeah.
If you're not eating fruits and vegetables, your whole diet is meat and starches.
Wow.
So you cannot fight off cancer with a diet like that. You cannot prevent obesity with a diet like that. You cannot fight off even blood pressure and diabetes. When you're looking at the food groups and you're thinking about, well, I don't eat this, I don't eat this, I don't eat that, gotta start trying stuff, opening up your mind. And, you know, we are very closed-minded in the South about how Thanksgiving plate is supposed to look,
Yeah.
and how Christmas dinner is supposed
Yeah.
to look, and 4th of July barbecue is supposed to look like this.
Right.
Okay, those are 3 days out of the year. But the other days, we shouldn't be eating,
You're
eating
right.
like that
Right.
all the time. But I also kind of think that in the US, if you think back when you were a kid, do you remember plates being this big? Plates were like 9
Right.
inches.
That's right.
So if you fill up a 9-inch plate with food, your perception is that I've got a lot of food because my plate's full.
Yeah.
But here we are, 2024. You go to Olive Garden, plate is 12 to 15 inches
Yeah.
big. So if they put 9 inches worth of food on a 15-inch plate, you're like,
That's a good point.
they didn't give me enough food
Yeah.
for this, you know, $20 I just paid.
Yeah.
So the perception is if it's there, I'm supposed to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So portion sizes have grown, plate sizes have grown, even clothing sizes. 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have 0 sizes and double zeros for women.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of shifted the sizes a little bit. So now you think, oh, I wear a 6 or an 8.
Yeah.
But a 6 or an 8 20 years ago was something different.
Yeah.
The perception of food as comfort,
Mm-hmm.
big problem.
Okay.
Suppose you grow up in a family where how they cope with stress is eating. That's what you learn.
Yeah.
So you're not going to turn 21 and move away, and then all of a sudden you're not going to cope with your stressors by eating.
Right.
Or genetically, if your family is of a larger size, so you already have that
Mm-hmm.
strike against you, but then there's also the learned behavior. So you kind of got the environment and you've got your DNA. And if those two are the same as far as your perceptions and what's in you about your size, you're fighting really, really a hard battle.
Right.
They had a study with twins, had twins who grew up in a home, parents were larger size. One twin went to live with another family, skinny family.
Okay.
That twin didn't end up being obese. He had the genetics, but he didn't have the environment that supported it.
Oh, that's powerful. So environment matters.
The environment matters.
That's good.
So you can overcome DNA
Okay.
to an extent. I mean, you know, not completely, but to an extent.
But making changes. Yeah, we're not talking about being perfect.
Right,
But that's
not
so
being perfect,
good.
but making changes, and it's got to be consistent changes. It's not a sprint. You can't do it overnight. It's got to be for the long haul.
I know this is helping somebody. I just know it is. That's really what I'm so excited about talking to you, because just those things you just mentioned about the nutrition, the sleep, the exercise, environment, you know, making small changes
Yes.
in your diet and all that. That's what we need to do. And I hope you're hearing this and going to just begin to attempt
Hope
to do
so.
this. Yeah. Because
I hope
you
so.
see it every day.
You see the end result of it.
Yeah.
You see
And they come to doctors wanting them to help them.
by this time, a person needs a amputation and losing their vision, they're on dialysis, they've had a heart attack, they've had a
Yeah.
stroke. These are the endpoints. So you already know if you see that happening, that 20, 30 years ago, that person probably smoked. That
Yeah.
person probably didn't have a great diet. They were under enormous amounts of stress that
Yeah.
they couldn't deal with or cope with.
Right.
All of that stuff adds up, and you become 60 and boom, here's all this stuff coming down on you. I hear people say all the time, oh, when you get to this age, you just fall apart. And I said, well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you've been doing what you were, hopefully supposed to do
Yeah.
all along, maybe not so much. Time takes its toll on everybody. I mean, we can't live to be
Right.
200 years old.
Right.
Time takes its toll, but time can be slowed down
Yeah.
a bit if we put good things into our body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so crazy how people will not. I don't want to put cheap gas in my car, and
Yeah.
I only put these kind of rims on my car, and I take my car to the car wash. I haven't been to the doctor in 3 years.
Yeah.
You take better care of your car than you do of yourself.
That's
You
good.
don't get a checkup, but you take your car to get the oil changed. You
That's
don't get
good.
your eyes checked, but need new brakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think sometimes if you viewed it as I'm a machine, this body's a machine, and if I don't take care of it, it's going to give out.
That is good analogy.
Eventually, it's going to give out.
That is good. I'll say this to interject one thing, is that you do reap what you sow.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you made a great point with younger people, because they feel like they're indestructible. But I'm just to say this to add to Dr. Shorter, what she said, your choices will catch up with you.
110%.
So what, just be encouraged and challenged today. What are you putting in your mouth today? Think about it, how the effect it's going to have on you 5-10 years from now. That'll kind of bring it to reality a little bit.
Always. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think anything in moderation is an issue, but the problem is, what is moderation?
Yeah.
What does somebody consider moderate?
Yeah.
I've had people say, well, I only have a 6-pack beer on Friday. And I'm like, that's too many.
Yeah.
That's too many.
Yes.
You can have one.
Yeah.
You can have one.
Yeah.
Only one? Well, you got your liver to worry
Yeah,
about, and
yeah.
you got your kidneys to worry about, and it's not like we can just go buy one off the shelf and, get your new one. You have to take care of them, and you only get one. You get one liver, you get 2 kidneys.
Mm-mm.
If you don't take care of them, and it's a cumulative effect. So it's not like I'm going to start now. I'm
Mhm.
50, I'm going to start. You really would have needed to start in your 20s.
Yeah.
And I know when you're young, you really don't have the mortality. You don't understand your mortality.
Right.
Time gives you that perspective
Yeah.
of saying, you know what, I'm 40, I'm
Yeah.
50, I'm 60.
Mhm.
I've got to think about these things. But everything we do, particularly what we eat, even where we are, you remember Chernobyl,
Yep.
how those people all end up with cancer?
Yeah.
You think about environmental exposures.
Mhm.
Do I live near a plant? Do I do I eat foods that come from like a lot of processed foods? You
Okay.
don't know what goes in processed foods.
Yeah.
Anything from even drinking out of, I thought about it, a plastic water bottle.
Yeah.
When you leave a water bottle in the car and it gets hot, you shouldn't drink out of the plastic
Yeah.
because those chemicals leak into the water. So you keep them cold, or drink out of a glass bottle. If you have kids and they're out by the bus stop, if they get too much exhaust from the buses, I mean, it's
So much.
many things. And whereas you can't be perfect, that's why your diet is where you really got to make up for
Yeah.
it, because you have all these great antioxidants in your vegetables and fruits that
Yeah.
kind of erase those cancer-causing things that we're exposed to. Because we can't help being exposed to sunlight. We can't help
Right.
being exposed to chemicals. But if you eat poorly on top of that, you don't have a way to fight it off.
That's good. I hope you're hearing this today, because Dr. Short is sharing. This is like a master class. It really is like a master class of everything you've said. Your story is amazing. Your
Thank you.
resiliency, your tenacity, all the things I could say about your journey got you to where you are. And then the wealth of information and wisdom you have that people need to really begin to take to heart. Thank you for everything you're sharing. And the last
no
thing
problem.
is, how would you encourage people? I know you just said a lot, but how would you encourage people just to make, what would you say this? Let me say it this way. If there could be one thing, I know there's 100 things. If there'd be one thing somebody could start with, what would you suggest to begin to make a healthier lifestyle, feel better about themselves? Just one thing. I know it's a lot, but
Change one thing at a time.
okay, change one thing at a time.
You can't do it all
Okay.
at once. Small steps end up being big things over time, like saving money. $1 a day ends up being a lot at the end of the year.
Mhm.
Small steps, because mentally, we as humans, we don't tend to do well with just flipping things over 100%.
You're right.
Do one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
Mhm.
Regardless of what that area is,
Whatever it is,
nutrition, exercise, sleep,
Yeah.
just do one thing.
tackle one thing at a time.
Great
It becomes
advice.
manageable.
Great advice.
Manageable.
That's good. All right, as we're closing, is there anything that you do like in the community? Because again, you have a wealth of knowledge. Are you teaching? Do you have classes? Do you do anything? Does that make sense? Do you do anything that's
Not anything like where,
the public can come get help
no,
besides you
no.
being their doctor?
Yeah, I'm in a lot of organizations. I'm Jack and Jill of America, and
Okay.
I'm Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and I do a lot of things through my church as well.
Okay.
So through those
Mhm.
venues, I do, but not me solely.
Okay.
But yeah, so if there's health fairs, if there are things that we do for women's weekends,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those types of
Do
things
those
I
things.
do. Mhm.
Is there? So the last thing we'll say. So there is in your practice here. Is there something? Isabel, it's like weight loss type
Yeah,
thing.
we do.
You want to just share real quick if somebody wants to
Yeah.
come and check that out?
Yeah, we have a weight loss program where we offer a variety of different things. So there's pills people can take. There's
Mhm.
injectable medications. We're really trying to tackle, obesity since it is an
Okay.
epidemic. And a lot of people do come and are successful. But even with the medicines and the injections, it still does not negate the diet, the exercise, and a good sleep.
It's good.
Period.
It's good. Thank you so much for your time
No
today.
problem.
Again, I
No
have been
problem.
blessed and learned so much from you. And you're a great doctor.
Well,
Thank God
thank you.
for
I
you.
appreciate you saying. I really do.
I
really
mean that
do.
too. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
All
So make
right.
sure you share this, subscribe, like it. And I'm just really feeling this from my heart to tell you this. Please tell somebody, it could be you, that's maybe struggling with some health issues. Go see your doctor, get a physical once a year, make one change at a time in your life, and you'll see things start to improve. All right. God bless you. We'll see you next week.